No one will scold you for loading up on tasty meat at a Brazilian steakhouse, but it's rude to take on more than you can handle. From limiting your salad intake to learning proper fork etiquette, here are some more Brazilian steakhouse rules you should know. Above and beyond the nuances of food sharing etiquette, why would you want to share your meal with someone when feasting at a Brazilian steakhouse? Appetites vary, so some diners might opt for a smaller dish rather than a blowout package. However, once that meat arrives lavishly carved from a skewer, it might be a different story. Even small or picky eaters are going to find those tender slices hard to resist. If you've just realized how ridiculously good picanha steak tastes and want your dining companion to taste it, then no problem. One bite and they may ditch the salad and get on the same meat-eating journey as you. If this turns into full slices or enough bites that it constitutes actually sharing the meal, then that's a no-go in terms of etiquette. One way to avoid any misunderstanding is to signal to the meat carvers, or gauchos, that you're offering a sample or two to your companion. Better this than the embarrassment of being called out for oversharing. Remember, the response will depend on the establishment, price, and management style. In a standard steak restaurant, you look at a menu and order from it. A Brazilian steakhouse is a different deal altogether. What's fundamental to understand is that the gauchos will think you want more meat unless you tell them otherwise. There's no waving servers over because you haven't ordered enough or are waiting around for dishes to arrive. In most Brazilian steakhouses, you're given some type of colored indicator, such as a token, to guide you in following the expected rules. When you're full or just need a breather from your meat feast, show the red card. It may have writing on it to say that you don't want any more food at this time. When you're still chowing down and want the skewers to keep coming, then give the gauchos the go-ahead by showing your green card.
Green means go.
Right, you ready for the meat?
Red means stop.
Yeah, I'm on break, I'm eating whatever I have, right?
Remember, even if you have meat on your plate, that won't deter you from being offered more if you're not indicating otherwise. Aside from wasting the time of the carvers, it could prove irritating for fellow diners at your table who have to witness you declining servers time and again. When you sit down at a churrascaria, you may notice a pair of tongs on your plate. You'll also be given this utensil if you dine at a Korean, Thai, or Japanese barbecue restaurant where you cook meat at a tabletop grill. There's no grilling required by diners when eating at a Brazilian steakhouse, but the tongs are there for an important reason that involves one of the etiquette rules you should always follow. A gaucho rocks up with a gigantic skewer of picanha steak and other meaty delights. With a huge carving knife in their other hand, the server slices the meat, but you shouldn't just let the serving flop onto your plate with juices spraying everywhere. And there's nothing the carver can do because they are already fully occupied with their hands. The polite move is to grab the slice with your tongs and transport it to your plate as it comes away from the skewer.
So I think I'm missing a step. Aren't we supposed to pull it?
Use the tongue, okay, to pull the meat.
Gripping onto the meat also helps keep the slice in place so it's easier to carve. You're not doing the staff a favor. It's actually what is expected. If you don't pay attention, you might find an awkward moment of pause while the gaucho waits for you to grab the tongs. If you realize that a slice of meat is about to fall as the gaucho carves it off, your first instinct might be to stick your fork into the slice as the final cut is made. Makes sense, right? As it turns out, that's not regarded as polite at a Brazilian steakhouse. For one, you might end up piercing the carver's hand. Additionally, you may even miss the intended slice altogether and stab your used fork into the main cut of meat that's meant for other diners. At most Brazilian steakhouses, you'll be given a dedicated plate for meat and separate ones for sides such as salads. With all that protein, you might want to load up on a few spoonfuls of vegetables and refreshing salad ingredients. It's not just about balance, but also taste and texture. While meaty skewers and gauchos come to you brandishing carving knives, you have to get out of your seat if you want veggies. Hopefully, you'll know the common sense standards of not picking at sharing platters and bowls with your cutlery or fingers. And you obviously wouldn't dream of putting any food that's been on your plate back into the serving dishes. Even if you're a salad lover, start with a fairly small plate. If you've never eaten at a Brazilian steakhouse, then you might not fully understand how filling the meat courses often are. There's no reason to load up your plate since you can grab more whenever you like. As with the buffet deal, which this essentially is, it's not polite to pile up food and then leave it behind. Serve yourself a bit at a time, and when you go for more, leave your dirty plate at the table and use a fresh one. When eating at a Brazilian steakhouse, treating the gauchos as if they are there for other requirements beyond the meat is a faux pas and should never be done. Chomping into all this food is bound to make you thirsty enough for a Brazilian lemonade. And since plenty of people dine at a churrasco-style eatery to celebrate a special occasion, you might want a classic Brazilian cocktail, such as a caipirinha, to toast a magnificent dining experience.
A caipirinha. Saúde.
However, gauchos aren't there to take drink orders or bring you beverages. They are not there to deal with the bill or anything else beyond meat carving. Period. Look for servers to assist you. Add extra demands on a gaucho, and you might find they aren't as available to serve you meat with quite the same dedication. It's not a question of attitude. They simply don't have the time or the extra hands to carry a tray full of beers. Ordinarily, dining at a churrascaria equates to slices of freshly carved meats on demand. But just because you can order as much as you like, that doesn't mean you should. One of the clearest etiquette rules you should always follow at a Brazilian steakhouse is to only order a full slice of meat if you're going to eat it. Sounds simple, but it does require some thought when everything looks so appetizing. If you're new to this type of cuisine and setting, it's probably best to try a small piece of the different meats before you commit to a big slab. If you're unsure, ask the gaucho at your table about each of the cuts and get recommendations. Leaving a smaller piece on your plate is fine if you tried it and aren't ready to commit to more. The discarded meat should be removed by servers so it's not hanging around on your plate the entire time though. So pace yourself and try more by taking smaller slices. That way, you don't weigh yourself down with one type of cut.
I'm still in the fast lane.
All right, go for it.
I'm ready to go.
Nobody is going to expect you to start speaking in Portuguese at a Brazilian steakhouse in the US, unless you can, that is. It's not that you are breaking etiquette protocol if you don't either. However, if you want to express how you want your meat cooked, then use some of the right lingo. Building a bond with meat carvers and showing consideration about what you're eating can greatly enhance the whole experience. This is dining out in an interactive, theatrical style after all, and adding your input is going to lead to a deeper level of enjoyment. If you love blood red steak, then you don't want to be cutting into a well-done piece, or vice versa. By saying mal passada, you're indicating you like your steak slices rare or medium rare. If you like a little pink in the middle, then the phrase to say is ao ponto. To make sure there's no pink at all, ask for your meat to be bem passada. Consider varying the level of cooking depending on the different cuts you try. For example, you might not want the leanest, most melt-in-your-mouth steaks to be fully charred. In Brazil, the main meal of the day is at lunchtime. In the US, you're more likely to have a blowout dinner than a midday feast. Whatever time of day it is, whatever the occasion, and whomever you're dining with, eating at a Brazilian steakhouse is never going to be a quick event. And with so many delicious grilled meats being paraded around the dining room, it shouldn't be. The last thing you want to add to the experience is a time constraint. Rushing meats and sides isn't going to be appreciated by staff or by whoever you're sharing the meal with. You don't want to come off as if you're desperately trying to get as much for your money as possible. However, don't be too slow either, or you'll miss out on the best bits.
And just when you try to catch your breath.
There's more.
It's not polite to rush the gauchos or eat as much as you can in a short period. You might be eating meat like a committed carnivore, but don't stuff it in your mouth using your hands. Use a knife and fork at all times. Beyond the fact that rushing goes against the dining atmosphere and makes others uncomfortable, it can ruin your meal too. If you want to try as many different varieties of meats as you can, then slow it down. Fill up too quickly, and you'll never recover enough to reach the end. You're probably used to set menus of 2 or 3 courses for lunch or navigating an a la carte menu for dinner. If you've eaten at barbecue restaurants before, then you might be familiar with the idea of eating within a certain time period or having a specific number of plates included. With a Brazilian steakhouse, the standard practice is that diners pay a fee and then indulge in the cuts of beef, as well as other meats like pork and chicken. However, and this is certainly the case if dining with a group and splitting the bill, it's best to know what's included in the set price. There's nothing worse than trying to digest too much top sirloin while being faced with a higher than expected bill at the end. Appetizers, seafood dishes, and special sides may not be included in the fixed price, while high-value cuts of meat may also attract an extra cost. Drinks and desserts are often not included, although you might be able to take advantage of a happy hour. You can also opt for specific main courses rather than an endless rotation of grilled cuts of beef. And don't forget to factor in any deals you can get for accompanying children. Every country has its guidelines on what's expected when it comes to tipping, and it's not like one rule serves all. In Brazil, it's customary to tip 10%. However, if that Brazilian steakhouse happens to be in the US, then it's best to follow the local tipping etiquette and stick with the accepted 15 to 20% for dinner. If the service is particularly poor or exemplary, then adjust accordingly. If you are dining as a group, then check beforehand whether the tip is automatically added to the bill. You might be encouraged to tip generously at a churrascaria given that the gauchos are basically putting on a performance, and a skilled one at that. This type of dining might be value for your money, but it's never going to be the cheapest night out. So don't scrimp on the tip if it's been an incredible experience.